Hi everybody, it's the Soap Man and it's Saturday afternoon and it's time to make some soap again. Today I'm going to use the same color scheme that I used last week to make this really neat looking bar soap. I tried to do the Clyde slide, it didn't quite work. It was more, ended up being more of a drop swirl, although it's a little fancier than your traditional drop swirl. So it ended up turning out great. I love it. It's not quite what I intended. But I'm going to use this same color scheme. White, brown, yellow, and orange. Kind of going on the fall theme. But I'm going to do this in a column pour. I've done, I think, 3 column pours in the past, and they've all turned out great. I'm hoping this one turns out just as well. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I'm using a mold. I've only used it once. I used it to do a spin swirl, and it turned out great, but I had never used it before, and I had too much soap batter in it. So I learned with that mold that 40 ounces of oil, which is what I normally use, works really well with that mold. So that's what I have here. I'll post the recipe below. It's my tried and true favorite recipe when I want a thin trace or even a thick trace, but especially when I want a thin trace, I almost always use this. Let's go ahead and do my usual procedure. If you haven't watched me, the live water is very cloudy because there's a lot of Testa silk in it. I'm going to pour it in the oils, get a very light emulsification, get it in my 4 containers, put my colors in. If I have to, if and only if I have to, barely hit it with a stick blender to get it just enough emulsified. Put the scent in and do the pour. Let's go ahead and hope for the best. Make a little bit of noise here with the stick blender. One more time should be enough to have it emulsified, and then I'll determine whether or not I have to blend the individual cups with the colors. That's all I'm doing for the moment. I always say this, I can always stick blend more if I have to. I can't unstick blend if it gets too thick. Because that's actually just a little bit too thin, but I'd rather have that right now. Get my 4 containers, and I've worked with these containers so well with this amount of oils I can just pretty much eyeball it, and close is good enough. I'm soaping semi-cool. My oils are about 100, are right around 100, and my lye water is right around 110. That's a good temperature to keep a thin trace with this recipe, just because I've done it so many times. I know it well. That looks good. Go ahead and put my colors in and whisk them in, and then I'll see if I have to stick blend some more. Now I can tell you the brown right now, because it's cocoa powder, it's not actual colorant, it's cocoa powder. It's not going to be dark enough right now. But when the soap starts to harden, cure, it's going to turn really nice dark chocolate brown, because the one I just showed you at the beginning of the video was the same way. And yeah, this is just a tad thin. So I'm going to hit it quickly with a stick blender. Yeah, you see the brown? Can you see that? It's pretty light right now, but when the soap